See that piece of paper over there?
Yeah.
I spent 10 years of my life getting that piece of paper. And do you know what's funny about that is that humour is actually the language of all of us, right?
This is where I will... So that's the one thread I needed to go off is you said the health scene is at the front, but I would argue it's actually the comedian, coyote energy, dingo energy, that jester. I would say it's the comedians, why comedians have come into such notoriety that are actually, you don't know, is it chicken or egg? Are they at the end of the process, the start of the process? Are they initiating that move towards harmony? The qi transforming towards a state it needs to be, which has been lost in traditional Chinese medicine. It's called qi hua in classical Chinese medicine. Work on that transformation cycle, moving from one space to a different, one formation to another, one bit of resonance with nature to another, yin to yang, yang to yin, to aggressive to patient. All those. From passion, exuberant passion to serenity, and different shades of serenity and passion inside of each other. What's that? How are we transforming between spaces? That's the main difference between going, you're in this disease state, you have these symptoms, I'm going to move you back to balance. Balance is like, oh, I'm going to stay there. It's like standing. I'm like, all right, then stop. Your balance, it just doesn't exist. So that's why I think you bring up humor. I'm like, that's the comedians. I feel like the actual ones.
Yeah, and that's really lacking in particularly the healthcare system, but a lot of other areas of our life. And
I don't know, those nurses doing those TikToks during the pandemic, they're pretty funny.
Well,
they're so quirky.
And the reason why that's gaining popularity is because that's what we're
That's
lacking.
the best you've got. You're so quirky. Oh my God, Sharon. You were like dancing in the emergency room. You made a TikTok. You're so quirky. That's what happens when you allow people to laugh at boring jokes. That's when you censor people and don't allow them and your children to be exposed to things that are actually funny and satirical. They think that that's funny and so quirky.
Yeah. And do you know what?
No offense to any nurses who are listening who actually like them.
We love our TikTok nurses here. Do you know, I mean, we even talked, you brought up languages before, and this idea that we have this language, and this is the official language of this country, and this is the official language, and that there are multiple languages, but there are also multiple ways to communicate. There's body language, there's intention, there's energy flow, and humor is the universal language. And anyone that's done any kind of spiritual work, you get to humor and you're like, okay, there's gold here, there's wisdom here. That is universal. Everyone gets humor. And just looping back to what you were saying around our experts, and our doctors or scientists or whoever has the piece of paper that says I'm the voice of authority, what they don't have is that space for humor and play. And that is part of the healing process. That is, if we look at things holistically, that is completely lacking in our society today, our ability to laugh at ourselves. And with that comes potentially the ability to de-identify with these ideologies that we so strongly hold on to, right? And this is, praise.
Well, no, you're right, because the comedians, rightfully so, and it doesn't have to be comedians, people can do it with nuanced, intelligent dialogue, or just living their life out in a way that is integrous, that is offensive to someone else. But that offense, it's people like, what's the one thing you've done to make sure that you really stay on track in your own agency and essence? And I've really, I've gone somewhat reluctantly at times, but I've gone with a dog with a bone towards the things that really offend me or trigger me, or when I feel personally attacked by someone. I've gone through those initial phases of getting through and realizing, oh my God, tickling on a little bit of truth here. What is that truth? What have I not thought about? And just getting offended because I don't actually know how to talk about this thing. I haven't acknowledged it. I actually have left the center of my essence and who I am, which is Taoism, the element of the spleen soil. I've come too far away from my own groundedness and soil, the center of my own wheel, my elemental wheel. And I've gone off as an ideology, and then someone pushes me a little bit, I just fall over rather than standing solo myself. So I've gone with a dog with a bone after people who oppose me, to the point where my self-dialogue in the shower used to be about defending my raw foodism, for example. And now it's turned to things would just pop up and I'd be critiquing myself. And I'd be finding myself trying to defend myself from these...
Having these internal arguments. Yeah. Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
And now I really seek them. I really seek them out. It's a really high quality thing, whether you consider yourself comedically driven or not. For me, it's actually all I wanted to do as a kid. As an 18-year-old leaving school, I was like, the only thing I like is comedy. But I couldn't see I didn't find myself particularly funny at that point, and without life experience, I don't think I was. But, I was like, all right, cool, suppress that and go forward and try and find myself in other ways of being in ideological circles. And then it ends up here and I'm like, oh, cool, I do like comedy again. But anyone can develop that skill to watch for the thing that triggers you the most. It's like, at this point, I can't think of an example where someone getting triggered, I think it can be used. It doesn't mean you need to make yourself bad. And if you're triggered, you can use that passion that you have, of course, to advocate for what you feel and know is true. I'm not saying everyone just becomes like a floppy fish and just never actually has any conviction because you know your opinion's going to change. It's different.